you would in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why VOD reviews are so powerful because it gives you a lot of time to break down every step of the way what you were thinking, what you were doing, what your intentions were throughout the game. So cool.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into the replay, let's set this up. So on the bottom left, there's a little eyeball. If you want to just press pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to open up the scoreboard, that would be the first thing. Scoreboard. Yep. And then double click your champion on the map or the screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then next to your movement speed stat, there's a little triangle. Over left, one more. Yeah, that triangle. Let's click that so I can see your runes. Okay, cool. So before we even start, I should preface. I play a lot of Zed, so I actually do know a lot about Zed. So I'm excited to hear like, what are your thoughts before the game even starts? Like, why did you take the runes you took? What do you think about your matchup? How do you think the early games are gonna go? That kind of thing.
First of all, this is a. I don't really go first strike anymore for because I was watching Fiddlazar. I don't know if you know him, but he basically said Electrocute and Conquer are the best, and I was okay. Let's try it out because I'm not gonna just like take his word. And now that I've been trying out Electrocute and Conquer, it's been working a lot better for me.
Uh
First
huh.
strike is like I go first strike if like I'm up against like a really hard matchup, like I'm not winning against them, like a Rumble or something. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see us Ravenous Hydra, split push, just like that's when I go for a strike now. But most of the time against squishies like Vagar, it's electrocute. But so I think that this rune choice was wrong here. Electrocute because like I can be aggressive against Vagar. His E is a long timer. Overall, my initial plan here
Mm-hmm.
was that like level 1, I need to just be back because like he's ranged. I'm not. I'm gonna get fucked. And at level 3, I kind of wanted to like level 2, level 3 poke him and kind of get him low enough so I can maybe threaten an all in or like
Mm-hmm.
make him back. Or if nothing happens, then at level 6 I can all in him after like one combo of WEQ.
Yeah. Okay. So that totally makes sense. Actually, First Strike has now become Zed's primary rune set. And the reason for that is actually they've nerfed a lot of Zed's early game. So now your poke and combos are much less potent, and actually in higher elos, it's almost less reliable that you're gonna get those kills solo. So first strike has actually become really popular. So if you like that first strike playstyle, that's still totally valid. So it's not wrong here. I wouldn't say it's wrong because Zed now is also a very powerful scaler, right? So you do kind of
Yeah,
get into that mid game, late game safely with first strike. It just depends on like if you think you're gonna put a lot of pressure in the early game and if you think you can one shot certain carries in the mid game. That kind of dictates what rune path you go. So that totally makes sense. I wouldn't say first strike is wrong because the other thing about mid lane, right, is play style, right? Vagar could very
yeah,
easily sit under his tower, just farm his Q, and you'll never be able to actually get an all in because of his cage, right? If Vagar's smart,
yeah,
if he just puts his cage on your shadow, you just can't get to him. So the first strike here to me is the safe play. I would never say it's wrong. just to let you know.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's press play. Let's see how kind of the early game plays out, and then I can try to see if there's other critiques or like other things that I can offer you. Let's actually do at
Yeah.
normal speed. That way I can watch your
Okay.
micro and your macro and figure out what you're thinking at every stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually don't know what to do at level 1. I just sit near tower. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's wrong.
Let's break that down.
But
Want to press pause?
yeah.
So what? Why do you do that, or what's confusing about level one? Let's talk it through.
Well, for me, like they have a Thresh in their team. First of all, let's just like mention that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm scared of is that like okay, like you would sit in this bush. Like at level 1, you only have one ward, and I
Mm-hmm.
usually want to save that to like ward like this or like this area, like any of the jungle entrances,
Mm-hmm.
like just in case I get ganked. So like I can't really like I don't want to waste my ward for nothing. And they have a Thresh, and if I'm sitting in this bush and he Qs this, I'm just dead. But
Yeah.
I can like max my W.
Right.
I don't upgrade my abilities until first minion wave comes. So, but still, it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't see what I can do here. other than just sit in mid tower because they have a thresh.
Yeah, totally understandable. And Zed is incredibly weak level one, right? So you don't want to put yourself in a
Yeah,
position to, for something bad to happen. And you need that stable laning phase so that you can scale lately safely into the mid game. So actually, the first thing I would mention is like you're not wrong. The other thing to read is your team's body language, right? So for example, right now you guys are set up defensively, and Timo is starting bot side. So one thing to think about is like if there were to be a fight, what do I need to be ready to do, right? You're not the tank. You're not going to start the fight. You don't have CC. You're just going to throw a Q and maybe do some autos, right? So in that sense,
yeah.
one of the best places to stand is actually the lane brush. So if you run
This,
down mid
yeah,
with the home guards and you stand at the lane brush, you actually guard this entire side of the river. You protect your team from invades. You'll see anything coming because by the time the other team gets there, you're already there first. So that's a safe place to
yeah.
stand. The other thing I would mention actually, the ward is actually. Do you know how long the cooldown is on your yellow ward?
It seems pretty long, like a minute, two, maybe.
Yeah. Actually, if I remember correctly, the ward lasts for 2 minutes. Almost 2 minutes, a minute and a half, I think. And
Yeah.
then, like, by the time it's dead, you can have another one. So I wouldn't worry too much about that first ward before the first minute starts. I would actually argue that if you got your jungler information, that ward can be super powerful, right? So, for example, what do you think at level one? Where do you think Wukong and Timo are going to start?
Like first of all,
If you
Wukong's
didn't
probably gonna
know,
start bot side.
if you didn't have
Yeah, if
vision
I
of the
didn't
blue
know,
team,
yeah, 100% Wukong side, bot side. First of all, it's bot.
okay,
He gets two leashers instead of one. Second of all, it's red. Wukong is an AD champ, so like starting bot is like a no-brainer for Wukong in my opinion. For Teemo, like when I used to main jungle for like a solid year,
sure,
and so like what I did 90% of the time is start bot side because I get a double leash. So I would imagine that Teemo would also start bot side because
right,
he needs AP as well. So
okay.
like it, I think both of them did what I would have expected.
Okay. So, how does that impact your early game? And let me know if that question makes sense, right? Like, so the
Yeah,
junglers are
yeah.
both starting bot side. What does that mean about your early game as a mid laner?
Well, for me, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
Wukong, I think I need to not be too aggressive. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
hard shove because he's a Wukong. He can just tank level 2 or 3, and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
fucked. He can just jump over this wall, and I'm pretty fucked. I'll either lose a trade or might even die. So I need to not hard shove
Mm-hmm.
till like Wukong, like till he's basically cleared this area, the red
Right.
side. And for Timo, I don't think Timo, like he can't really gank too well.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'd imagine just don't hard push and just play decently safe until
Right.
Wukong is either spotted topside or like it's been a while and a scuttle fight has happened.
Right, exactly. So the jungle is one input, right? So the other thing is that you should almost never be hard shoving as Zed because your one
Yeah,
through four is awful, right? Like you don't have
yeah,
any way to actually manage the wave. So actually, I would simplify your decision making here. I would say, hey, let's just let them shove to me. I don't need to do anything levels one, two, three. And if I can get to my level 4 safely, where I have 2 points in Q, then I can start to be aggressive and look for skirmishes, right? So,
yeah.
so that's how I would think about the early game. Let's press play and see how things play out, and then I can see if I can give more thoughts. Did all of that make sense so far?
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, cool. So
It's
that
just a lot of the
first
stuff
ward.
that I haven't think about.
Yeah. Okay. So let's sorry. Pause one more time. I want to. Okay. So the main thing about mid lane, and I tell this to all of my students, like if all of the details you forget, that's fine because each game is different. The main thing I want you to take away from any coaching session is that when you're playing mid, you have two goals. One, you want to be able to always be thinking, what am I doing with this lane? That's something you should always be asking yourself because mid lane is the least reliable lane to be getting solo kills on, right? You've got your safe
Yeah,
mages, you've got your assassins that take a little time to scale up. You always have to be thinking about ganks from side lanes because you're the middle of the map, right? So the first
Yeah.
thing you want to nail down is wave manipulation. The second thing you want to nail down is jungle tracking, right? Because those are the two most
Yeah.
influential things in the mid to early game. Sorry, early to mid game. Sorry. And especially as an assassin, where if you get killed once, twice, three times, you're pretty much useless,
Fuck.
right? So yeah,
Yeah.
so that should be your construct going into any game, right? So the first thing I wanted to mention was there's actually a couple ways to use that early ward. If you know that Wukong is starting bot, one thing that you could do is ward that ramp, right? Because you're worried about an early gank, right? So
Yeah.
if you
This
just
area?
walked in,
Yeah.
do you have a question?
No, no, I was just asking this area, like
Yeah, so if you
the
move your
jungle
mouse
entrance.
anywhere on that ramp, will give you vision if for multiple things actually. One, it'll tell you if Wukong might be thinking about invading or going over the wall. The second thing it tells you is he doing a full bot side clear? Because Wukong is mediocre at clearing, right? He's not a full clear jungler necessarily. He could do a
Yeah.
red side clear into a level 3 gank, and that's the strongest gank, right?
Yeah.
So that set of options is out of your control, right? It's safe to assume he's going bot to top, but you don't actually know when he plans to cross over. So that early ward pre-minute, even 30 seconds, throwing that ward there actually gives you a good chunk of information. I would do that when you're playing Zed.
Yeah.
So just
Makes
walk into that
sense.
mid bush, throw that ward down on the ramp, and then back off. Because then you've done your job, right? You've done your job. So now the other thing that tells you is if you don't see Wukong through that ward and that ward expires, you can then safely assume he crossed over. Because otherwise he's just wasting time. And what you can do is play to your bot side. Because now you know that Wukong is top side, right? So if your ward's still
Yeah.
not off cooldown, you can play to your bot side because that's the furthest away from him. Anyways, just some
Yeah.
options to think about. So go ahead, let's press play. Let's see how it goes.
This was a completely winnable game. Like 100% winnable. If I like once again, I probably made a bunch of mistakes, but I like mid to late game. I was like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Like zero idea. Like I see no options. I can't split push. I was completely confused, and I think
Yeah.
that's why we lost. Because I was like, I was in a position to carry it. Like I could have won this game if I just like stepped up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think as you said, this was a bad decision trying to like hard shove this in.
I'm just observing your early game micro and seeing if there's anything I noticed, and then we can talk about it. Probably pause at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pause here, and then
Yeah.
if you want to rewind, maybe press the little back twice. Yeah. So the first thing I notice, and I would ask you is, are you familiar with XP tracking?
Um. Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know what
Like.
I mean when I refer to when I'm saying XP tracking?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. When the other person is
Mm-hmm.
gonna level up and when I level up,
Yeah.
who's ahead next week?
Exactly. So, do you have a sense of that when you're playing? Like right now, what do you think is going to happen here, for example?
Well, Veigar is obviously like ahead in XP, and I think that's because
Mm-hmm.
he kind of like was pushing the wave in a bit more or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like I don't understand why like Veigar is almost a solid level ahead. Well, a half a level, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. So when you're playing Zed, this is extremely important, right? So when you're playing a mage versus mage matchup in mid lane, it's less important. Like you're level 3, you get your full kit, that's great. But when you're playing Zed, this is actually extremely important because Zed is all about those tiny windows, right? You want to surprise your
Yeah,
opponent level 3, level 6. You want to be able to set the wave up so that you are ready for that. So one thing I notice is that you don't know when that happens, and that's fine. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is level 2, you probably know, right? 7 minions.
yeah,
So the first wave
yeah.
and one from the
And then
melee.
one melee. Yeah,
Level 3 is 2 waves and 2 melee minions, okay? So right now, Veigar's about to hit level 3. And that's because this is the third wave. So that's fine. Knowing that, that's fine. The other thing I want you to think about is he's about to Q that wave, right? So your
yeah,
positioning is exactly where that Q is going to land. So in some sense, you're trading HP for almost no reason here. And so you want to avoid those situations. So one thing I recommend as an assassin player is to always stand to the side of your wave. Do you know what I mean by that?
yeah. So
Yeah,
like if they try to CS, since they can't really walk up, you don't get hit by their abilities.
right, exactly. So you're forcing the mage player to use their skill shot either on you or the wave. And if they choose the wave, you unload immediately because you know that the
Yeah,
mage has absolutely no response, right? So
yeah,
when you're playing Zed, this is also extremely important because Zed, like you have to play him optimally, and that's why he's a pro. He's like a more higher elo skewed champion because like people
yeah,
think, oh, you just press R and you get free kills, but actually you don't. So a few things I notice you don't do is you don't punish the cooldowns. That's fine, but especially for a Veigar, you want to confuse him. Like right now, your body language is indicating to me that you're playing completely defensively. And that's fine. If it's like a bully matchup, like a Galio or, I don't know, a Yasuo, that's fine. You should
yeah,
be kind of scared. You're pretty useless levels 1 to 3. But a Veigar, you should be hitting this guy with Qs, proccing your Scorch. You should be putting Ws in front of him, denying him some of those stacks. Otherwise, you're basically saying, hey, do whatever you want, you know?
yeah,
So those are a couple things that I would start to think about. Um, and really like right now you should be to the right of your wave so you're in position to WQQ swap auto bam, like you took
yeah,
W level 2, right? I believe in this game.
yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And that's fine. I mean, you're level 2, like it depends on whether you're getting pushed in and you need your E to CS under tower or you can use your W, so I mean that's totally fine. I would use it though, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
At least just put my Q W down and he gets scared, walks away.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's a win.
Right.
Even if I don't like hit anything.
Exactly. So the thing about your early game is you are snowball dependent on kills, but you shouldn't feel pressured to get that kill because at 6 you get it so damn well, right? Like you'll get
Yeah,
a kill at 6 if you're playing even 60% efficiently. But if you're playing like 40 to 50% efficiently, you're probably getting a little stressed. So
yeah,
yeah, so I would think about some of those levels 1, 2, 3 a little bit more and really think about punishing your opponent's cooldowns, and that takes a lot of practice. Do you know Veigar's abilities?
yeah.
Yeah. What are his abilities?
His Q is the like he throws a magic ball, and then his
Mhm.
W is like the fucking satellite strike, and his E is the stun
Stun.
cage.
Correct. Right. So Veigar's goal in the early game is to get as many Q stacks as possible, right? So you
Yeah,
know that he's going to be looking for those low HP minions, like right here, and trying to get those minions low. If he's pushing the wave, you should be so happy. Like that's
yeah.
great for you. So letting it kind of like crash and bounce. And do you know the wave behaviors? Do you know what I mean by it when I say that?
For the most part, yes.
Yeah, go ahead. What am I referring to?
Like what I think you're referring to is like when is the wave gonna push? What's like, for example, if two waves are even and I just stand back, I don't auto the minions at all, but
Mm-hmm.
Veigar is like last hitting them. it'll eventually push into my tower, and then it'll, because the wave
Right.
push into my tower, and one of my waves come, then the wave is gonna bounce back, and then my waves are gonna be pushing instead of his.
Exactly. So those are those openings that, as a Zed, you should look for. So, for example, because you pushed back so hard, you kind of left the wave in this middle state, and that's fine. That's kind of usually where you want it. That's totally fine. But you can use some of those silly players who are just kind of AFK pushing towards your tower to your advantage, right? Because when they're
Yeah,
pushing, if they don't hard commit to pushing, you'll get level 3 before him, and you can unload and totally take control of the lane. So, like, if you
yeah,
didn't push back here, for instance, right, and you let that wave come to your tower, the momentum could have gone completely differently in the early game. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And one other, and we'll get to it later, so let's just press play. There's even more.
yeah. 1 second. You
Yeah.
want to continue?
Yeah, let's press play.
And I already know what you're gonna say, by the way. Like I like do this on autopilot. I W and E and instantly Q and miss it.
Mm.
Like that's like, I don't know. It's just autopilot, but I should probably wait like a second to aim my Q.
Yeah, so right there, right? He's on
Like this.
cooldown. So, okay, we can talk about that if you want to know how to improve that, and I can give you some pointers. I'm sure your
For
WEQs
sure,
get
yeah.
better, but here's a general kind of pointer when you're WEQing is that. So let's rewind really quickly. Let's just go back
Yeah.
15 and then get to that point before you do the trade. So
Yeah.
Zed's W, right, is like essentially his core ability in some sense, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
dictates your mobility. Um, the best place that you want to, so there's a couple things that you want to be doing with that W placement, right? One, you
Yeah.
want to be threatening this Vagar with it. So the timing of it is super crucial, right? Because W is on a 20-second cooldown, or maybe even 22. I forget in the early game. I think it's a
Yeah.
22
It's
second
pretty long.
cooldown, right? That's brutal.
Yeah.
That's I mean
Yeah.
that's insane. So the first thing you should look for is when should I WEQ, right? So
Yeah.
the one of the best times to WEQ is when you can read your opponent going for some CS. So right here, right? What is Vagar
Yeah.
thinking? He sees
I
those
think
two low. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think he's gonna try to, as you said, like Q those two low minions,
Exactly.
like move out of the cannon and like
Mm-hmm.
Q them or W them.
Right.
I think he'll
So
try to W it.
yeah. So since you know he's going to do that, he's gonna. There's gonna be a moment where he starts to cast that ability. When he casts that ability, you should be walking forward into his face, ready to W. And the best placement
What
for
happened?
W.
You
Yeah,
might
go
be.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was talking to my dad.
No, you're fine. The best place to W is right on top of him. So what I mean by that is not like literally on top of him because you need to hit both Qs, but off to one side. So for example, right? Let's say you W'd right where that first strike bubble is, right? You see where that
Yeah.
bubble is right there?
Yeah.
If you can
Yeah.
W there, what's Veigar gonna do? He's likely gonna walk backwards in that bottom right direction, right? And that's the
Yeah.
choice you're pushing him into. You're pushing him in that direction with that W placement. Because there's only a couple ways to dodge that W, and I guarantee you, no one's gonna do it until you're like Diamond Plus. Because they don't know. The best ways to dodge ZW is actually to walk into the shadow. And this Vagar is not going to do that. So what you can do
Yeah.
when he goes up to walk and CS those minions, throw the W to one side, E, wait a split second, and then Q. And then you're
And then
definitely going to hit
I
it.
think over here, I can just like TP to my shadow and just like proc my passive as well. And like even if he stuns me with his E, I don't think he has enough DPS to like do anything
Right.
major.
I mean, your first WEQ is probably not going to get him low enough for the passive. This is still level 3, right? So the point
Yeah.
of that is to get momentum in the lane, right? Because right now, he's kind of just doing wherever he wants. You haven't put any pressure on this Vagar. You haven't thrown a
Yeah.
Q at him. You haven't kind of like trimmed the wave enough, and you haven't done a WEQ yet. So he's kind of like la la. He's like playing his game.
He's chilling. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you press play right now, and go up. That's kind of what he does. Okay, he ends up Wing it, but your W there, for example, is so far away that you're never gonna hit both Qs. So
Yeah, I
one,
need it to be
yeah,
like in the same horizontal line.
yeah, you need maybe not the same because if he's letting you walk up that close, he's definitely screwed up. but
Yeah,
but you should definitely be walking forward, right? Because you want to guarantee that really good W placement. That's a pretty good trade. I don't know if you hit both Qs there though. If
I
you
did.
rewind,
I did.
did you?
I'm pretty
Okay,
sure I did.
cool. So I think your
Barely.
second one barely clipped. Okay, yeah, it was I
Yeah.
couldn't tell, but it clipped him. Okay, cool. So you see how right now the wave is stuck in front of your tower? That is the
Yeah.
best placement for Zed. You shouldn't be trimming this wave. You should leave it there because it forces Vagar to come to you again, right? You're
Yeah.
on your
And then I
W
can just trade.
because also your W is on cooldown. You do want him to come into you. So every time you go for a trade, ask yourself what's happening to this wave now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
Like
I
I
mean
let him do
that's what
that.
happens when you autopilot, right? So you got to constantly be
Yeah.
asking yourself these questions like what is
But
Vagar trying to do? Where should I, what am I doing with this wave? Yeah,
if if I hit those to both of the cues, I think that was a kill. Just
I think
ignite.
so too. Um again, if you want to rewind, let's look at your W placement there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. I think we have to
missed
rewind
it.
a bit more.
So this is how I would recommend if you do go over your replays to go through it, right? Is like, where's my W placement? Am I walking up?
Yeah.
Am I even in range for this W, right? Like, look how far back
Yeah.
he is. I think he's too far back, actually. Okay, now you're getting in range. Uh,
Yeah. I
your
think he was a
W is
bit too far
behind
back.
him. So when your W is behind him and he's already turned around, you're never gonna hit both Qs. That's already too late. So that's why I want you to, with the next like 20 games, focus on putting your W on top of them.
Yeah. If I can get them like behind, get it behind them, I think like this is why I love Zed. Like at level 4, you can just completely almost kill them or just force them out of lane if you hit a full combo with
Exactly.
passive.
And you can. And that's why your W placement is so crucial, right? It's such a long
Yeah.
cooldown. You got to nail those down. So definitely for your next like 20 games, practice on that. Just pay
Yeah.
attention to where your W is getting placed. And I guarantee you'll see a lot more success in the early game.
Yeah. And one more thing I noticed personally when I was
Sure.
like looking back at this game was that I like this is what I said. I said why am I not putting pressure on him? Like Veigar should be like under tower perma. Like just he can't even walk up. That's how he should be. But I let him CS way too much, and then it he kind of snowballed into the
I
mid to
see.
late game and fucked everyone up. Even though like he's behind, like I was ahead. Like I'm ahead in CS right now, but like there's not enough pressure on him. He should just have 10 CS, less than 10 CS.
So when you're thinking that in the middle of the game, I actually discourage that because you're putting more pressure on yourself than just focusing on your play. Like right there, what do you think about
Yeah,
that W there? If
that
we
was the worst W ever. Like,
so focusing on like, okay, what can I do better and why didn't he have less CS, right? So if we just count the number of W's that you've thrown out this game so far, it's about 4 or 5. I would say there's been 1 or 2 good W's and 2 to 3 bad ones, right? So
yeah,
those are areas that if you improve, then Vagar has 10 CS, right?
yeah,
So when you go back and look at your play, that's like the things that you should be thinking about. Less so like, oh shit, why didn't I screw this guy over? Why didn't I beat this guy? Well, you kind of have your answer, right?
how did I not beat him? Because I missed my
Right,
Ws.
right,
Like, what was the
exactly.
reason? He should be dead here. I think like if I hit both Qs, I can just flash E or like
Yeah,
flash ignite
you
and flash
could do a
one.
lot of things here, right? So if you double clicked your character there, if you rewind a little bit,
Yeah,
There you go.
Like if I
Yeah,
even if
so
I just
right here,
flash
right?
E2, he's dead.
Um, I don't know if your flash reaches that far. I don't think you could have flashed on top of him. Because the other thing is like you kind of have to respect your opponent to some extent, right? Like if you flash right on top of him, you gotta assume he's gonna flash too, right? And then that's a
Yeah.
wasted flash. So if you're
Random
closer and you can instantly do it, and you're just like a Zed God and you know to cancel your autos,
Give me 1 second.
yeah,
Like give me like 30
sure.
seconds a minute. 1 second.
Like when you're thinking about flashy queuing, first of all, you have to make sure that there's at least a 90% chance that you're going to get that kill, right? So, for example, the thing about Zed Flash EQ is you have to execute it fast enough for the other champion not to flash, right? And if you assume equal
Yeah.
skill, you kind of have to think about, okay, maybe this guy's going to flash. So, just given that, unless you know how to auto cancel your E and auto, I actually would recommend against that because the other thing is about to happen, right? One big thing is about to happen. You're level 5, you're going to hit level 6. Why blow your flash for a 60% chance at a kill? Whereas when you have your ult and flash up, you're like
Then he's just
95%
guaranteed.
chance you're going to get a kill, right?
Yeah.
So now it's even better, right? So he just TP'd. You have your ult, you have your flash, you have your ignite. Now you can start to think about some of those crazy fancy plays because you also have your Dirk, right? Before
Yeah.
now, you don't have those items. And that's the thing about Zed, right? It's like you don't it's great if you get a kill pre-6. That's amazing. It's even better to have all those things up for the level 6 kill, right?
Yeah.
So actually, right now you're in a great position. One, the wave is gonna start bouncing back, and you're gonna have everything up. So let's press play. Let's see how this goes.
I'm pretty sure we get a kill here, or like shortly after at least.
Hmm. Actually, would you mind rewinding about 15 seconds and then hovering your character? I wanted to check something really quick.
Yeah.
Go all the way back. Actually, go all the way back to when you're in the fountain,
Okay.
and now go to your character. Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Okay. Okay.
I usually W first and then like
Yeah,
heal.
yeah, yeah. No, that's. I
Heal you
wanted to
back.
make sure you were doing that because that tempo is actually really important and it's free.
I don't know
Sorry,
why I
do you know
didn't
what
do
I
that.
mean by
Yeah.
when I say tempo?
Yeah. I think by like tempo you mean getting to lane fast enough, like keeping the pressure up against the enemies,
Yeah, that's part
keeping
of
your
it.
CS up.
The other part of it is being able to come to a play first, right? Okay, so look at that WEQ just now. Let's talk about that one. If you go
Yeah.
back, what do you think about that WEQ there?
I think I knew that he was sitting there and
Uh
he
huh.
didn't know that I knew. I knew that he was there, but he didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that I knew.
Right.
So I think I could have like walked a little bit further to get the W on him. And if he tries to cage me where I currently am,
Yeah.
which he probably would, he's like silver. I can just W onto him and it's a free kill.
Exactly. So let's play and go back to your champion really quick.
Yeah. Like this should have been a free kill here, like
Pause,
literally.
pause, pause. Look at where your W
Yeah.
is, right? It's so far back. You're never going to hit both Qs, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that in that instance where you know he might not know, that's a kill opportunity right there. Right?
Yeah.
And so you don't even have to start with WEQ. See if
I
you
can
can
just ult
bait out a
him.
cage. Like he is in such a bad spot right now if you look at the wave. Like you can
Yeah.
save that WEQ. You can just walk right into lane from there and put tons of pressure on him. This is where you start to exert tons of pressure, right? Because if you walk through the river right now, you have kill threat. He does not. So it's all about the body language, it's about the WEQ placements, and it's about how you threaten in certain moments. Because so far, your WEQs have been relatively passive. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Yeah.
playing overall way too defensive too. Like I
Mm-hmm.
need to be aggressive. To be honest, I like
Right.
when I was playing the game, I think like what I was thinking to myself was, okay, I'm happy with how my laning phase went. But now that you're breaking this stuff down, like I've not once thought about this, like not even
Mm-hmm.
once.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty eye opening because like I just thought, oh my, I'm missing my W's because I'm like silver. But like
Right.
there's a very simple and easy to improve reason why I'm missing them.
That is the biggest thing I would focus on in the first like next 15 games is your W
Yeah,
placement and making sure that like as you're thinking about W placement, also being cognizant of the champion that you're playing against, right? So for example, if that's an
yeah,
Anivia, you probably can't just walk into her face, right? Like that's a little bit
yeah.
harder.
You're
But since
dead.
it's a
You're pretty
Veigar,
dead. Pretty much.
right.
Yeah.
But since it's a Veigar, you can almost get away with it, right? Like he's gonna kill you. You might take some damage, but who cares, right? Like you kill him way
He
faster than he
literally
will.
cannot stop me. Like
Right.
he either cages when I W in. If he doesn't, then he's just dead. I don't even like. I probably don't even have to use ult. He flashes and
Exactly.
then I use ult. And if he like doesn't cage and waits for my ult, then I can just
Hmm.
flash out of it. And most likely he won't even hit it if like
Right.
I ult,
Right.
because they don't know that Zed spawns behind them when I
Hmm.
ult.
The thing is, he has to place the cage where your shadow is, and if he doesn't know that, he's dead. That's it. It's just that simple,
Yeah,
right?
he can't do anything.
Right. So one thing that I would actually encourage is even though you missed your WQ here, you could actually swap back when he starts walking into lane because he won't
And just
know that you're
ult.
there. He won't know that you're there. So chances are this Veigar is going back to lane and he doesn't know that you're in the side lane, for example. So if you had swapped back and he walked into mid lane, you could literally be behind him and start the fight with an ult. And he's dead, right? So again, it's
Yeah.
all about your body language and knowing that like, okay, this guy's gonna be scared of me, right? He's gotta respect me. And making sure that your opponent learns that. So let's press play. I'm assuming what happens is he walks back into lane and you go the long way. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I should have. And one more thing, by the way, I've noticed myself as well, and like a lot of pro players were recommending is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't understand how long like your W timer is. So
Yeah.
like you can kind of anyways, so you can like kind of just praise your W and they forget it's there. They walk in front of your
Mm-hmm.
W and just you W out or just E first. Like you can bait them out and you could
Right.
catch them by surprise. And since
Right.
they're like so far walked up, you can like they just can't run.
Mm-hmm. And your swap range is infinite, right?
Yeah. I think it's limited in ARAM though, because I've tried some combos and they haven't worked.
Did you say ARAM?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
limited in
okay.
ARAM,
I don't
which
actually
is
know ARAM because I don't know. I don't play it too much. But you have 5 seconds to swap with your W. That's a long time,
that's
right?
quite long.
So I mean, if he's not paying attention to it or not thinking about it, that's great. So for example, let's go back again, 15 seconds if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I want to give you more advice on how to create opportunities as Zed. So we talked about a few. The other one was back there where you could have swapped. Here's another one, right? So
yeah,
this lane is not going to crash into your tower if you trim it a little bit, right? So for example, he's got 4 minions, you've got 3, right? If
yeah,
you walk up to that wave, that lane is stuck. Veigar can't even walk up to this CS right now.
yeah.
Like,
It's literally
mhm,
a simple freeze,
right,
an easy freeze right here.
yeah. So being able to like react to those moments and knowing to like hold this is Zed's favorite spot for a wave. Let's put it simply, right? This is Zed's favorite
Yeah,
spot to be in because you can threaten the all in and you can zone the opponent off the wave. The other thing I wanted to ask you actually, and we totally skipped it over, is do you know when you hit level 6 in mid lane?
I don't know by minions. Like I don't know how many waves
Mm-hmm.
it takes.
Okay, so you hit level 6 around 9 waves, okay? So
Yeah,
the way you can count that and think about that is a wave spawns at every 30 seconds. Okay? Every 30 seconds, a new
yeah,
wave spawns. And it takes about 20 to 25 seconds to reach mid lane. So around the 6.5 to 6 to 7 minute mark is when you're going to be hitting level 6. You got it early here because you stayed the entire time and you haven't backed yet. So you got it right when you should have. But Vagar went back and he got it on his recalled wave. So knowing that is a huge opportunity for Zed too because you can prep the wave for that surprise level 6. Um, anyways, that takes a little practice, but knowing that is very important too.
yeah,
Let's press play. Right. So if you hold that here right now, just maybe trim it a little bit. Hold that one minion there. Don't kill it.
yeah.
Your wave, he's screwed. He can't walk up. He just can't walk up. So creating those little opportunities is also really important.
I think the Wukong is really bad too. Like he can just gank and put pressure, but he hasn't done that yet.
Well, we haven't even talked about jungle tracking in this game. We can at some point. I didn't want to
Like,
get
what
too
was
much
this?
into it.
What the fuck was this, man? I should have killed him here.
I think you do get it. No, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that wasn't ideal though.
no worries. Again, if you go back, check
Yeah,
your WEQ placement. I would highly recommend every WEQ getting crisper and cleaner.
yeah,
I don't know if you tossed it here. I think it was here.
yeah,
Right? So where's
yeah.
your W right now?
I think it's
Press play and then press pause.
yeah.
Do you think
I
both of your
it's
shurikens are going to hit here?
no, no way.
Press play.
I
I don't.
don't think. I don't think they will.
Right.
They could have actually.
Right. Because they could have, but you want to make sure that they do. Right?
Yeah,
So that's
like
exactly what
right
I'm
here where
saying, right?
Veigar is.
Mm-hmm.
Like this would be perfect. Where
Right.
Veigar is currently.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, right? Like if you wanted to critique yourself, we would say that I would say so far, 2 out of your 8 WEQs have been good, like really good. You have
Yeah,
opportunity to improve on those remaining 6. And if you hit every
and that's
single
a
one of
good
those,
thing.
this guy would be dead twice at least by now.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think the more stuff I'm doing wrong, the like happier I am because like it's if I'm doing like basic stuff wrong, it's much easier to improve compared to like if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean
Like
that's a
if
good
you're
way to
like
look at it, man. I mean, you're trying to improve, right? And that's the bottom line. Like the elo will come. You should just focus on like your own gameplay and knowing that like you
exactly
have room to improve. Like that's the main thing, right? So like even so far that we've talked about, we've only gone through 7 minutes, but we've talked 40 minutes. Like there's so many opportunities for better wave manipulation, creating opportunities, W placement, knowing the XP tracking, punishing cooldowns. Like that list is all fundamentals that you could like be practicing in every single game, regardless of the matchup. Right?
and it's easy to think about. Like it's just hit your W's properly,
Right.
know what to do with your wave, and
Mm-hmm.
it's simple stuff like that can change
Yeah.
the like entire game. I can
Exactly.
hard carry
Mm-hmm.
just by doing this stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Press
Like
play.
that's
We can watch a little bit more.
yeah. I think if I think walking in there kind of saved me because he got cocky and walked in,
Yeah.
and I was able
And
to dodge his stuff.
the thing is, like, getting hit by certain cooldowns is not the end of the world, right? Like the
Yeah,
fact that he hit the stun there, like you said, baited him in. He thought he could kill you or something. When in reality,
yeah.
he had no chance, right?
Because I'm dead.
Like the chance. Actually, good Vagars, what they do is they max E. Let's double click on this guy for a second on the Vagar. On the
Oh, the
top
radar. Okay.
in the character, yeah. Can we see what he's maxed or anything? Can we see his abilities? No, we can't.
I think he.
Okay, he's maxing Q. So his
Yeah,
E level 1 isn't even going to keep you there long enough, right? So good Vagars max their cage
yeah. I
because
think
the stun duration goes up ever so slightly, but it becomes longer and longer, and that's when you're in trouble. Maxing Q is so
yeah,
bad. I don't think that makes sense whatsoever on this in this matchup.
especially
So,
against a Zed, because like
mm-hmm,
this isn't a mage versus mage, and this is a Zed. You
exactly.
need your E.
Right. Right.
I think I shouldn't have stayed for the plate here.
Why do you think that?
The reason, actually, no, Veigar is coming here, but like usually I don't want to stay for the plate too much. I would rather have a good buy than like if Wukong was like, well, I spotted Wukong at top, so this
Mm-hmm.
is kind of understandable. But like if I didn't, if the enemy jungler wasn't seen for like a solid minute, this would be like a death wish, in my
Right.
opinion. Like it's
Yeah.
not worth it because it's already in the game.
Yeah, and it's good that you're thinking that because tower plates fall easier later, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you usually want to go for those plates if you have like a cannon wave or something. But the main thing, there's a
Or if you
couple,
know where the jungler is.
or if you know where the jungler is, definitely. And you also want to check, like, okay, what do I need to buy, right? Planning ahead for what do I need to buy. Then you can decide, okay, do I need this plate? Should I get it now? Is it worth staying? Like, is there a play that I need to get to? Those are all things that, like, determine whether you should stay for the plate or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think this is
Also,
fine. Yeah.
I would like to at any point of this VOD review, I want you to kind of like help me with the build because I get
Okay.
confused at like what to build way too often. Even
Yeah.
though I know the like base build for Zed, it's just some some specifics. I'm like, should I do this or should I do this?
Yeah.
Like
Let's spend the
Eclipse or
rest.
Duskblade,
Yeah, let's spend the rest of this review doing that because we're already at like 45 minutes. So let's spend a few minutes doing
and
that.
it's 7 minutes in the game. Damn.
So, but you see my point, right? Like, there's in the
Yeah,
first 10 minutes of the game, there are so many things that happen, and we didn't even talk about jungle matchups yet, right? We haven't even
yeah.
talked about roaming. We've only talked about mid lane, your experience, and how to play mid lane. So, anyways, yeah, let's fast forward to some point in the game and see what you build, and then I can answer any questions that you might have about that.
Yeah. So like, I
Okay.
think I should skip a bit forward till I get to
Yeah,
two items.
just go until you have a couple items. Yeah. Okay. So what are you thinking about builds in this game?
Like what I would build in Zed normally.
Yeah, like what determines what you build on Zed? What are some things you think about?
Usually, first of all, I go Eclipse against like if they had like an Akali, an Aurelia, Yasuo, someone who I know I'm gonna be dueling and they're like melee champs. I need sustain.
Mm-hmm.
Duskblade. I think Duskblade was best here because they have a Veigar, Zeri. I just want to like kill their Veigar, Zeri, and just run out and let my team handle the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And second item is where I kind of get confused. I know like Serelda's is something you're supposed to build. Edge of Night is a good item, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to go second. Like, is Prowler's good? I don't know if like Prowler's is even good anymore.
Okay.
I know they like took out the main point of it, but like I get confused at second item mostly.
Yeah. Okay. So the way I would think about Zed builds, right? So there's a few things, right? One, you have to decide what your role is in this game, right? So you're a Fed Zed. What are you
Yeah,
trying to do? Are you trying to fight with your team and kill a couple carries? Are you trying to split push and draw somebody and then run to the team fight and try to kill somebody in the back line? Or are you looking for isolated 1v1s, and who are you going to be 1v1ing when you do that, right?
yeah.
So given kind of like that question, what's your role in this game, right? What are you trying to do here?
I think my role is mainly to kill the Veigar and Zeri as the team fight starts or whatever, so they can't. Or at least I'm responsible for the carries because we don't really have any other assassins in our team. Like
Mm-hmm.
Garen can maybe jump on the back line, but like if I can kill Veigar and Zeri both, then I think I've done my job, and my
Okay.
team can handle it from there.
So
Like
that's
that's my
one.
goal: kill Veigar
Yeah.
and Zeri.
So you're gonna try to team fight with your team and try to jump into the back line. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's definitely one way that you can think about playing Zed, and I think in that case, Duskblade is your best first choice. You're totally fine with that. The other kind of like lethality items are based on essentially their active. So when it comes to the minuscule math and the precision of like, oh, how much damage does this do? Most of the lethality items are on par with each other, right? So if we're thinking like
Yeah,
legendary lethality items, Edge of Night, Prowlers, I'm blanking on if there are any others, but when you
Relga's collector,
yeah, like collector. Okay, so the one that I would not build is collector
collector.
because you're
Yeah,
not
Zed
going
like
crit. We could talk about crit Zed. There's a fun route that you
no
can go
fuck
with crit
it,
Zed,
Zed.
but
I'm not
since you're
interested in
playing the
that.
caster style, it kind of depends on what active you need from your lethality item. So in this instance, right, you went prowlers.
Yeah,
And I think that's fine. You could totally use that to your advantage. I would argue that in this game, Edge of Night is a little bit better because let's say you are in that team fight situation. How do you get onto the backline when you kind of don't have any reliable engage for you? You don't have a front line. You don't really have a way of just like starting the fight reliably. You're going to be fighting on their terms. Your team is
Yeah.
going to be reactive here. As a reactive team, it's a little harder to get to that Zeri, that Vagar. What I would have recommended here instead of Prowlers is actually Edge of Night. Because if you
Yeah.
can dodge that one CC ability that's going to get you into the backline, then you really threaten that backline, right? And the other thing I would actually say in this instance, your job is actually to get on the Zeri. You don't have to kill her. You actually let's step back for a moment. You don't have to kill anybody, right? If you kill somebody, great, even better. But you don't have to sacrifice yourself to kill that person. And the reason is this: you have tons and tons of damage on your team. You have an Ezreal, you have a Teemo, you have a Garen, you have a Zed. All of you do damage,
Yeah.
right? So in that sense, if you can just threaten the backline and they're out of the fight, their front line is never going to win against you. Plus, you have a
Yeah.
fed Ezreal, right? So like
Yeah.
even if the fight starts, as long as your Ezreal's alive, you guys are winning, right? So the fact that like you can entering the team fight in the middle of a team fight is kind of what I'm trying to encourage with this build, right? So that's one
Yeah.
way to play it, right? Another way to play it is through that side lane advantage that I was talking about. So if you know that like you want to pick up a side lane, the chances are you're going to be running into this Scion, right? And Scion doesn't have any
Yeah.
kill threat on you. Who cares? Scion's irrelevant compared to you. So, I shouldn't say irrelevant. He's really, really tanky. He's going to be really hard for you to punish and get out of lane. So, if you plan to side lane and side push, you want to be able to get to your team as quick as possible. All right. So, in
Yeah.
those instances where you're splitting, unless you can kill this Scion, which you definitely cannot kill this Scion, you should be going
Yeah.
Ghostblade. Because Ghostblade enables you to play that more roaming mobile style, right? So, your
So
first
that's
item in this
viable. Ghostblade is viable on Zed.
is any of the lethality items are viable on Zed. Either go Ghostblade or Hydra or something that helps you clear the wave really fast and get to your team, is essentially what I'm saying, depending on how you plan to play. The thing about Zed builds, like you can build any of the damage items and you'll scale like a freaking monster, right? Because you're
Yeah.
scaling assassin. So what
That's
I'm
yeah.
right. So what I'm recommending here is either going that Ghostblade route. I'm not saying the Dustblade is a bad path by any means. It's just it depends on how you want to play this mid game out. And I think the question you had is why did we lose this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's skip forward a little bit more. I mean, I'm not going to be able to see everything, but if we can watch like the last what how long is it? 36 minutes? Let's watch the last like 7 minutes or so, 6 minutes, and then I can maybe give you a quick perspective on what happens.
Yeah. So the Scion was the biggest threat here. Like
Yeah.
he just kept on split pushing,
Mhm.
and we could like look at my
Right.
damage. I should have played Black Cleaver.
So you could build Black Cleaver as a response. Um, the in that case, if Scion is the win condition for them, your
Yeah.
role is to side lane and pull this Scion away as much as possible, right? So like if you are in a side lane and Scion comes to answer you, you've won because you can get to that team fight way faster. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
So identifying like how you want to play that depends will really dictate the build. Yeah, this Scion's a terror, right? I mean it's a
Yeah. If
hard
I could have.
it's pretty hard in this game. I'm not gonna lie. You can't do much to this Scion. Even if you build Black Cleaver, it's like questionable that you'll kill him because he has five armor items. Um, Basically, you want to try to pull him away from the fight as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This Scion literally won them the game. Like if this Scion
right,
was someone else, we would have won. Like for sure.
right. So in
And I
those
think yeah.
instances,
I think you're right here. Like I failed to recognize the win condition. Like their Zeri and Vhagar weren't the win condition. The Scion was. I should have been side laning with Ravenous Hydra, Yomu's Ghostblade. Just like makes the Scion not a big threat for my team. Because I
right.
I think my team would win a 4v4.
I think so too. I think with a
We have
Fed
enough flex.
Ezreal and Nautilus to boot and a Garen, I think you guys win 4v4 for sure there.
Yeah, that was a mistake on my. I think the main takeaways I've had from this session is first of all all, like focus on the WEQs, like the
Mm-hmm.
small fundamentals of your champ. Obviously that, but like another thing is identify their win condition. Okay, who
Exactly.
is their fed carry? Who is gonna win them the game? Is it their fed split pushing top laner? Is it their fed ADC? Is it their like mid laner, jungler, or whatever? And
Right.
I need to kind of like neutralize that threat.
Right.
Either if it's like
Exactly.
a split pusher or like it's fed AD carry. Fed AD carry, I go dust blade, full damage, one tap them. If
Mm-hmm.
it's like a Scion, I should have just side lane perma.
Exactly. Cool. Um, that was a lot. Hopefully this was helpful. Do you have any like other questions that we can that you wanted to ask me while we're here?
Yeah, one main thing is one like something I get confused on is as Zed like engaging in a team fight. It gets like confusing because I've had this happen a couple of times where
Mm-hmm.
let's suppose there's a team fight going on here. Now I am usually, let's suppose I'm Dust Blade build, I'm going to like one tap the AD carries, and the AD carries are the fed win condition that they have. What happens is that my team is like kind of like we're going back and forth, and I'm obviously like at the back because I get one tapped.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like one or two things will happen. Either number one, I go in too early. Like the fight has begun, but still I go in too early so that their carries and backline just straight up focus on me. Like I ult their carry or something, I get on their carry's face, and then their support and everyone just straight up turns and CCs me. Or either this happens, or number two, I like the fight already has begun and I've lost one or two teammates, and then I'm going in. Like I'm either going in way too late or way too early, and I get confused like on how like
Yeah.
what to do in that situation.
Yeah. And there's one other fundamental there, right? It's like how to play a team fight, and that can be. I mean, there's so many factors into deciding how you play a team fight, right? So the
Yeah,
thing about Zed ult is it's a great engage tool. However, the thing about it is that you have to be using it to like its effect, right? ZR is
yeah,
great because it helps you dodge certain cooldowns, right? So for
yeah,
example, if you're using an R and they have all of their CC up, the moment you land, you're getting CC'd. But if you're in the
yeah,
middle of a team fight, you have to be able to quickly decide, okay, are there big cooldowns that I need to dodge? Are there big cooldowns that I can dodge with my R? Then you can ult into a carry, right? So
yeah,
you have to be processing like, okay, their front line is diving my team. Fuck it, I can't help them. But what can I do? I can let them engage, see if like the Thresh is protecting the Zarya and the Veigar, and see for those crucial cooldowns when I can ult, right? So
yeah,
so that might help you decide like should I ult now, should I ult later, should I ult in the middle of the fight, should I ult at the end of the fight. Sometimes you are
yeah,
just cleanup duty, and that's fine, right? Like if your team dies, but you can clean up, that's great. If you can start a fight and bait out some cooldowns with R and then W out, for example, also great,
yeah,
right? So like just watching for those like identify when the team fight's about to start the big 2 to 3 things that you have to outplay, right? You don't have to outplay everything, right? You're not, they're
yeah,
probably not trying to dive you, they're probably trying to
yeah,
dive your Ezreal. If you can outplay like a Thresh box or a Thresh flay and a Vagar stun, boom, you're on the back line.
yeah.
Does
That
that
makes
make
a lot of
sense?
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Cool.
And I think that's about it. Like that
Yeah.
covers the main problems I was having. Like for now, at least, like the fundamentals, the basics.
Yeah, man. I mean, for the next 28, 25, 30 games, just practice those WQs. Practice, like, knowing wave state. Like, always ask yourself when you're playing mid lane, what's happening with this wave and how can I use it to my advantage, right? We didn't talk
Yeah,
about, like, jungle tracking and all that, but I mean, maybe another time. Yeah, there's so much more
yeah,
information,
for
right?
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
By the way, what is something that you think was my strong point and like something I can use in mid lane?
Yeah, I think like so when I watch your replay, at least you're committing to the play, and that's good. That's important, right? If you are as
Yeah,
Zed are hesitating, that's when you flounder, right? So like one
yeah,
thing that's great is when you are committing to the play, commit to the play, and then understand like where your limit is, right? So you're gonna
yeah,
learn and get more comfortable with Zed when you understand where your limits are. And the fact that you're just like ulting, going in, and thinking about when should I go and when should I threaten, and putting that pressure on yourself, you're in the right mindset to go and do those things. So don't lose that. Like even if you die 6 times in the next game, it's about like, okay, did I do my WQ right? Did I commit to the play? Did I get that kill? Like thinking about it that way is good. So
Yeah.
you're on the right track for sure.
So yeah, thanks
Cool.
a lot. Like you helped me with like the very major flaws that I wasn't like noticing that can
Yeah.
like literally make me go from 0-0 in like 5 minutes in the game to like 3-0. Like
Hmm.
literally, this game I could have been 3-0 in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Definitely try it out in your next game. Let me know how it goes.
Yep, for sure will do.
Sweet. Well,
Yeah, thanks
thanks,
again.
man. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah, it was nice. Like you're one of the best coaches I've had. To be honest, I've like had a couple of people help me out, but like
Yeah.
nobody mentioned these basic fundamentals. Everyone else was like focusing on
Hmm.
like matchups and stuff, like not what I'm actually doing wrong in the lane.
Yeah, and those are layers that you can get to when you're comfortable with yourself and your champion, right? So like there's always an infinite amount of material, right? What sets apart like a gold player from a diamond player? It's just those knowledge of those fundamentals and little things. So I mean, we can always chat again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Like let
Cool.
me know whenever you're free,
Yeah.
and I'll be down
Cool.
because this has like helped me more than like fucking 6 months of playing League of Legends.
I'm glad. Good. Awesome.